It's such a pleasure to have all of you here. This is a unique and extraordinary circumstance where the Women's Sacred Music Project will be offering their very first virtual premiere. This is an exciting event for us, and it's totally appropriate that it mark our 25th anniversary year with something unique and special. So it's my privilege to welcome you all here virtually to the beautiful campus of Rosemont College, where we're so happy to be hosted as the Women's Sacred Music Project. What I'd like to do first is give you some preliminary guidance about the virtual premiere, and then I will introduce some of our featured speakers before we get to our main event, which of course is the premiere of the piece I Cannot Dance, O Love by University of Oregon composer and YWCC alum Sarah Kitten. So before we begin, just a couple of thoughts. As the host of the Zoom session, I will mute everyone, and feel free to stay muted until the question and answer session, just to avoid peripheral noise coming in, etc. Also, feel free to have the participants window and the chat box open on your screen so that you can make comments at any time in the chat box. That's how we encourage you to give feedback during the prepared portions of today's event. And also feel free to use during the question and answer the raise hand button in the manage participants window, and I will be glad to call on you. And of course, we welcome your questions and participation during that portion of today's event. So with that in mind, let's get right to our main event. And it is my pleasure to welcome Professor Jenny Ratigan, who is the current president of the Women's Sacred Music Project and would like to offer a few introductory remarks of her own. So Jenny?
Thank you. Good afternoon and thank you. I want first to take a moment to express thanks to you, Dr. Latham, to our composer, Sarah Kitten, and to your dedicated musicians and choristers for the countless hours that you've spent in this production. We celebrate you as well today. And on behalf of the officers and the board of directors of the Women's Sacred Music Project, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. It's a special honor since much of my teaching career was at Rosemont College, and I have served on the board of the Women's Sacred Music Project now for over 20 years. So they're both very close to my heart. The hospitality that Rosemont College has offered our project seems a natural outcome of both of their histories. Both founded to recognize the needs, the talents, the goals of women at the time, and to bring their contributions out of the shadows and into the light, encouraging and supporting their work in their chosen fields and in liturgical worship. The Women's Sacred Music Project began with the vision of our founder, Lisa Neufeld Thomas, a vision that in fact has highlighted the contributions of women from the past, while paving the way for composing, publishing, and performing sacred music in our time and making it available to others. Beginning in her Episcopal Church experience, she joined with others to gain the needed support to initiate the project. Her vision has embraced other Christian denominations as well as Jewish and Muslim traditions to reclaim our sacred stories and texts. Her vision has always been accompanied by courage and persistence. So it's a great honor this afternoon to present our founder, Lisa Neufeld Thomas.
Well, thank you, Ted and Jenny, for organizing this exciting premiere. Also, let me take this opportunity to thank Rosemont College for its generous, ongoing hospitality as the Women's Sacred Music Project has grown. The very first meeting of the board of WSMP was held at the college, as were many other meetings and concerts. We have all been deeply appreciative of retired President Margaret Healy for inviting us to use the Rosemont campus, and now to President Sharon Hirsh for continuing their generosity. Most importantly now, thank you to Sarah Kitten for writing a musical setting of a Voices Found text, I Cannot Dance, O Love. The text by Wiebe Janzen was published without music in the hope that a composer in the future would set it. And now I really look forward to hearing Sarah's setting today. Now, I've been asked to talk about our history, so we will. In 1995, following the 20th anniversary of the ordination of women to the priesthood in the Episcopal Church USA, a group of laywomen at St. Mark's Church, Locust Street, began to meet regularly to encourage each other to find their voices in worship. The music and liturgy of the Episcopal Church was only just beginning to reflect women's needs. Using newly authorized supplemental liturgical texts, the group worshiped monthly in the Lady Chapel at St. Mark's. They found very little music by women in the hymnal 1982. As organist for the group, I began searching more widely for music by and about women. A small group of musicians started to meet weekly to learn and sing the pieces that I collected. This group evolved into chapel singers, an ensemble that gave regular concerts using this repertoire in the USA and abroad, and made 2 recordings. This growing movement to draw attention to the contributions of women in the church through music came to the attention of then Bishop of the Diocese of Pennsylvania, the Right Reverend Alan Bartlett. Together with Bishops Barbara Harris, Frank Griswold, and John Howe, he sponsored a resolution at the 1997 General Convention of the Episcopal Church in Philadelphia. It directed the Standing Commission on Church Music to prepare a supplement to the hymnal 1982 that would emphasize liturgical music, hymns, and other songs by women composers and poets, both historical and contemporary, texts and music to be included, which celebrate the contributions and diversity of women in Scripture, women saints, and church women. The resolution passed, and with extensive further research, review, and editorial advice, the supplement Voices Found, containing more than 160 hymns, psalms, canticles, and spiritual songs, was published by Church Publishing in 2003. A companion leader's guide followed shortly afterwards. Early in this process, the Women's Sacred Music Project was incorporated as a 501c3 entity and acted as agent of the Standing Commission in compiling Voices Found. Since the completion of that major project, the WSMP board has furthered the intent of the early sponsors by commissioning new works by and about women, and also organizing concerts of sacred music by women emphasizing different religious traditions. Further information about these events may be found on our website under projects. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Professors Ratigan and Neufeld Thomas. It's such a pleasure to have you with us and to have you be the founding members of this wonderful organization that's doing such good work. And now let's turn it over to the rest of our speakers and continue on with our program.
Hi everyone, my name is Erin Busch, and I'm the founder and artistic director of the Young Women Composers Camp. The Young Women Composers Camp is a 2-week music composition festival for young female or non-binary composers between the ages of 14 and 19. YWCC is a unique program for a couple reasons, the most obvious being that we are focused on diversifying the new music scene and amplifying the voices of young women. But it's also unique because we don't require our students to come in with any prior composition training or even compositional experience. Although we're not the only high school composition program that offers a high level of musical training, prominent guest artists, and professional performers who record student works, other programs require students to already have a compositional resume before they're even considered for the program. These kinds of barriers to entry create unfair hierarchies of experience and opportunity, which restricts their student bodies to include only the privileged few. Our program recognizes that these practices drastically narrow the field, and we aim to work towards a more equitable playing field for all types of aspiring composers. Sarah Kitten was in our very first cohort in the summer of 2018, and she was already well on her way to writing interesting and innovative music. I'm thrilled that the Women in Sacred Music Project selected her for our first collaborative commission and can't wait to hear what she came up with.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Hirsh, now and for the next 5 days, president of Rosemont College. I'm happy to be here with you for this tribute. First of all, let me congratulate all the many, many people who contributed their own time and treasure to the project that is named the Women's Sacred Music Project. Congratulations on 20 years of support for the work of women creating and performing sacred music. The first step, of course, that your organization did, was the necessary research to uncover those women composers who had all along existed but were still unknown. They had to be researched because either they were not appreciated in their own time because they were female, or more likely, despite the fact that they were appreciated in their own time and respected, they did not have access to the mechanisms that their male colleagues would have had to enter their work into what is now known as the canon of great music. And so you did this research, and I thank you for that. We now have access to music that we never had before by women composers. But you've gone much further in funding and encouraging now contemporary female composers of sacred music. It has been my pleasure to contribute and continue the ongoing relationship of support from Rosemont College to the Women's Sacred Music Project. I know that this relationship existed because of the early work and support of Peg Healy, and I want to commend Peg here for all of her support, generosity for this group and for so many others. Again, my congratulations on 20 years of great work. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kitten, and I attended the Young Women Composers Camp the summer before I started college. And the best thing about the camp for me was that it gave me the perspective to see myself having a future in composition that I hadn't really been able to see before. And that was a big part of what led to me following through with double majoring in music composition and computer science at the University of Oregon, where I'm a sophomore now. And it's been going really great, and I've been writing some fun stuff, and I've been lucky to be commissioned by the Vivaldi Strings Youth String Orchestra in Portland and the Women in Sacred Music Project, which was an opportunity that I got from being an alumnus of YWCC. And so YWCC really helped me to have the confidence to move forward in composing and to take these opportunities as they come.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
So, St. Thomas of Villanova Parish Choir, wave to Sarah. So, we were just doing a little practicing, but we would love to take a step back and listen to you talk to us about how you wrote this piece, etc. Whatever you'd like to share with us would be so fun.
All right. Well, I'm I'm Sarah Kitten. I wrote the piece. I am a student at the University of Oregon, and I am studying music composition and computer science. And the text was suggested to me by the Women in Sacred Music Project, and so I guess I'll talk about it a little bit. It starts off kind of misleadingly downcast, I think, with I cannot dance a love unless you lead me on. I cannot leap in gladness unless you lift me up. And so it's speaking in these negatives about these things that you maybe can't do, but it also has this hope in it in the second clauses with the unless. And so the negative phrases I kind of slope downwards in the melody, where the positive ones I slope more upwards. And then moving towards the end of the first stanza, you get more confidence. And so it kind of gains confidence in the way I orchestrated, and the tonality shifts from this emotional ambiguity to this major resolution. And then the second stanza, I do it faster and more joyful, and it's got a bit of a Baroque style to it. And I see it as kind of like showing music as this symbol of love and connection, and the voices sounding like birds in air. And then we transition back to some of the opening material for the third stanza, but this time it has less of that uncertainty from the beginning. I'm looking at my notes here. But like instead of the exposed lines from the beginning, we have this crescendo into a kind of fully supported part where that's an interlude on the word love before you finish off the recap and kind of have a, straightforward, confident ending. So that's kind of the way I thought about how it relates to the text in some of my choices, but the process of writing it took me a long time to write because it's a little different from my usual style, but I did it over the course of my winter term at school, and I composed on my computer with a keyboard beside me to figure out the chords, and it was a really interesting project, and I'm glad that I have this opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of the singers were saying that it had kind of a neo-Renaissance feel. It sort of felt like
Yeah.
a madrigal.
Yeah, I think it does have a lot of that influence. You know, I'm in my music history classes, and so that's some of the stuff that I'm listening to for those.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, that's fabulous. If you would like to jump in at any point, I'm going to share my screen again and pull up the score. And then if you have any insights you want to share with us, feel free. We were just talking about phrasing, especially places to breathe for the altos. This is a tricky spot for them here at 24 because they have to crescendo on a low C. So that's hard for them as well. So we were just talking about these three spots in terms of places to breathe. Do you have a preference among these three? Or following the punctuation?
I think definitely after when would be a good place for when you lead. That strikes me as a good, but all of those seem like perfectly good places to breathe.
Cool. A little mark. This one is approved. Composer approved.